That's a good question.
Jim,
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
so we cleaned this up last August, so it's been a while, but I think you've got progressive education programs that are mandated by the United Nations, federal mandates or state mandates. So maybe there's better phrasing. I think that's what the author's intent was, that
Grammar's not good.
that halting the implementation of any progressive education programs that are tied to the United Nations or mandated by federal or state government.
That'd be good, yeah.
That would maybe be,
That makes it
would that
grammatically
satisfy
right.
the,
Yeah, yeah, that makes it grammatically better, yeah. I guess we should do them one at a time. Right? Anybody else has any questions about 3, right?
Fast way.
I wonder, is that better? That's what you wanted?
Yes. Governments, yeah.
so you should vote on that change. Without objection.
Can we do this without objection?
Yes.
Yes? Ready? Naomi?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, that's good, yeah. Because then the or ties to the progressive, that's the, it modifies it, right? That's right, okay. Number 4, it starts with NGA called for Texas. That's really more of a whereas, it's a statement of a purpose or reason. Maybe that should be a whereas, and then the rest of it just stay as the resolution. See what I mean? I would say make that a whereas. Any of the whereas, it doesn't have to fall in place in the whereas list.
Actually copy it, paste it, and then strike it where it is.
No, we don't want to leave more than
Move it
that.
out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we're like to the
Doesn't matter because they fall off anyway.
Yeah, any of the whereas. It can be, let's put it after the American founding. I like that. Up, yeah. Put it right there, yeah. There you go. And then at the end of that, of course, you take the period after goals out, make it a semicolon, and put the word and after the parentheses. I never know if semicolons go before or after parentheses. Do they? Okay, I know commas. Okay, so that's semicolon, then after the quotes. And quotes put, yeah, after.
So we call it after the quote.
After quotes, yeah, after
I
quotes.
looked that one up the other day.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
So I'm always confused about that, yeah. Okay, that's good.
Do we need to vote on this one? Accept this without objection?
Yes.
Committee?
Yes.
Yes. Got it, Dan?
Should we not, what is, put in there what the NGA is, instead of the,
Oh, yeah, do we need to spell out NGAA?
Is it not spelled out before that?
well, it is, no, it's
not.
below it,
It's not.
it's
It's below
after
it.
that.
Oh, it's after, yeah, we
Yeah,
probably do need
to
to.
spell it out.
Did we spell it out elsewhere below?
At the bottom.
Below we do, but I don't-
So just copy the reference from below and,
Yeah, and then just make number 4 can just be the NGA.
yep.
Right?
No, because the resolve always has to stand above.
That's true, good point, good point. Yeah.
You have to keep that language.
You wouldn't need the parenthetical
No,
resolution.
Yeah, just copy it there and then just copy that up
Yeah,
and then,
so people aren't confused about what we're talking about.
and then on the second reference, you can just say NGA.
No, the resolution should have the names.
The resolve has to be standing.
Yeah, you're right.
Resolve has
It's
to
a
be
sense of the party, which is.
Yeah, just take that one out. Perfect. Yeah.
This is what we think, and also,
Ability to do this.
which they won't do, they'll ignore it.
And kill the quote on a line. Oh, no, never mind. Decapitalize a line. Thank you.
And
we're happy with that. Everybody said yes.
One more suggestion.
Okay,
In the last resolution, calls all Texas legislators. All right, the word reestablish bothers me. Has it been unestablished, so it needs to be reestablished formally? Would maybe instead of reestablish, if it's already in place, you can say something that, you know, to
Reaffirm?
reaffirm,
reaffirm, I
confirm.
like that, I like reaffirm.
Reaffirm is better, because reestablish sounds like it's been unestablished, and now we need to reestablish it, right? Even put forcefully reaffirm. Just kidding, just kidding. You want to use too many
That would go at the end,
Reaffirm.
that's an
Did we do
adjective.
both?
That's
Is
a,
that what you want, Jim?
Yes. I
Okay.
think that's, I think it sounds
Is that an
better.
objection? No?
Yeah, that's,
Is that okay?
yeah, I want to make another,
Well, this one we can pass without objection, right? Right, okay. Next.
I would like to move that we add another, at the very bottom, therefore be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be sent to all legislators
Uh-huh.
and all Texas school districts where practicable.
I like that.
Yeah, we do need to send that on. Copy of this resolution.
But, yeah, legislature. I don't mind that it'd be difficult to get it to all school districts, but I think there's some that we certainly have to, probably need more than most, but.
What you're gonna do that, you can send to the federal legislators too.
Send where?
You've got them included in the resolve and stuff.
Yes, yeah, sorry, I'm here.
State federal legislature, but also
Yeah, that would work.
Well, be submitted to the,
And it should all Texas school districts work practicable.
school districts what?
As practicable.
That's just the independent school districts. Don't have charters.
I think you sent all of them.
All school districts, independent, public. Is that what you want, Carol? Mary, is it okay with this addition?
Do you want to make that the state and federal, or all state and federal? Or do you want to get Texas, or do you want to make it, yeah, how do you want to do that?
It should be just all Texas.
All Texas?
All state and federal legislators from Texas.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not sending them to.
That way you just.
Yeah,
You don't control
perfect.
so much.
Yeah, yeah, DeSantis would be there.
Okay, me, okay with the addition? Okay. Any other additions? Okay, we need a
It is a
motion.
title too, I believe, Madam Chair.
Oh, yes, we do need a title. We didn't have a title.
Maybe the original,
What was
our
the
guest
original?
could suggest a title.
International Baccalaureate Resolution?
Or international.
Don't want to give that.
nobody's gonna
Resolution on-
remember that.
Opposing.
Opposing International
On
Baccalaureate.
the opposition of,
Opposing.
I like opposing. Opposing United Nations International.
Yeah, I like that better.
That
Put the United
international,
Nations in there, you'll get a lot more
United.
attention out of it. Opposing United Nations. International.
indoctrination of children.
Just international baccalaureate.
It's in there, from the third, second whereas. you want organization in there too, in the title, ma'am?
I think that would be good.
Yeah, that would be appropriate. At the end of
Not
that
the
word, it
baccalaureate.
should be organization, just like down there in the second paragraph.
Opposing global education.
I like that.
Is that the only organization doing this nonsense that we know of?
That's the core.
That's the core one?
It's all, the United Nations, the way they do it, I found that out doing Agenda 21. They have a core piece of it, and then they break it down into various other little nondescript groups to implement their core system.
But it's all the United Nations is the.
Still,
is
the
the
United
root.
Nations is the root cause of it.
Okay.
It's like in this case here, the following group, the deal is there's local, educational groups, in 10 school districts.
Title okay? Gwen?
Great. Made it better.
Yeah, they've had to work it into another, but yeah, because that one got beat up too much.
Jim?
The reason I ask that is because if you look at the very first whereas paragraph, the very top of it, it says, yeah, we oppose the use of national or international standards in the state of Texas. And then it's got, for example, Common Core, C-SCOPE, United Nations inclusion. And then it goes to the International Baccalaureate Organization. So are we opposing all of those or just the International Baccalaureate Organization? Because then the first resolve is any progressive education program tied to the United Nations. And then the second one is not, doesn't say United Nations, then it says International Baccalaureate Program. And it goes back to the United Nations. So it's not, it's just a little confusing to me, I guess.
Show the first word from the top there. Maybe 1 and 2 ought to be flipped.
That's point 136. That's out of the Texas Republican platform, that first whereas is.
Right. So this resolution may be just being more narrowed down to just this particular ID program, right? That's what this resolution is focused on, right? Which is fine.
Actually, what is, to me, what the state's trying to do is move it out of being just a blanket platform. It doesn't give a lot of reason to it, and move it into legislative priorities to the cast.
Sure.
You're asking for legislation down there for legislative folks to be able to make a law that they can't do that. Then you start having the teeth to that.
You can eat the elephant one bite at a time, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit better way of trying to, you have to move the ball, just incremental progress on these things.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept this resolution?
As amended. As amended.
As amended. Bree, you say?
So moved.
Brendan, and Dan second. Okay, and then we do the Donaldson.
You gotta vote on it, gotta vote.
Oh, yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
You open up, let's fix that HDMI.
All opposed.
Oh, no one's opposed.
No, you haven't asked yet.
No one's opposed.
No one gets the proposals.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Excellent job, ma'am.
No, that's not, thank you so much, thank you. Oh, I'm gonna kill myself over those little things. Yeah.
We have a lawyer here.
Okay, our next resolution is calling on Elections Department to print the early voting results, memorialize and secure early voting results prior to election day. Maggie's not in here.
I've talked to her about it. I've talked to her about it.
Well, Jim's here, he can talk about it.
I can speak to it.
He'll speak about it. Thank you. She got two of them. Okay. Whereas, be it resolved that we call upon our party chair to memorialize and secure the early voting results by working with the Elections Department to print the early voting results tapes at the central counting station directly from the early voting ballot scanners, which the early voting ballots were cast on the evening of the last day of early voting, March 25th. Be it further resolved that the early voting results tape should also be signed by that party's central county presiding judge and the elections administrator or county clerk. It must be locked in a safe location with a licensed peace officer guarding them with a security camera on there so that the early voting paper audit trail remains safe until election results are announced.
Am I the right one?
No, that's not it. It's the other
Oh.
one. I'm sorry. One about the tapes.
That one?
No, that's not it either.
I didn't get the one you.
Yeah.
No, I think it's that one either.
It's got resolution of thee with a long line after it, at the heading.
No.
Do you have that?
You don't have this one?
Can you forward that to me, please?
I didn't get it either, but.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and go to this one. Just stay up there with the numbering. It's attached to the numbering.
So you
All right, we're gonna do this one. Be it resolved to protect polling location, presiding, and the alternate judges, other election officials, voters, and candidates. The Dallas County Republican Party calls on its party chair to instruct the elections administrator in writing to resume consecutive ballot numbering in all elections, starting with the number 1, and distribute that information, instruction. Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just gonna take a lot of changing stuff.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, are we just doing this resolution just for Dallas County, or are we doing it for all the counties in the state? That's the question I had.
That's a good question, I know.
Because Dallas has already passed theirs.
We need to do it.
If it's in this realm, it should be in the entire
It should
state,
be-
not in specific.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what I'm saying, though, is Dallas has already passed theirs. This is already passed it. Dallas.
They've already passed it.
Yeah. Yeah, and Colin just passed one too, Monday.
So if we do it for statewide, is anyone else thinking for any other district, county? Is everyone numbering their ballots?
I don't, can someone explain, I feel totally lost. Can someone explain what the issue is by numbering ballots?
Yes, I can tell you. If you've got a big stack of paper ballots in front of you that have been voted, and there's 1,000 of them, and they're not consecutively numbered, how do you know if some of those were slipped in that weren't actually voted? For instance, if you got them 1 through 1,000, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're numbered consecutively, and there's 1,000 of them, then you know there's not 400 number 501s or 502s, right? You know, there can only be one 501, right? And so you have a unique number on each of the paper ballots themselves, and they can't be duplicated, because then you'd have more than one 502, or you'd have 1,001, and you know that you only sent out 1,000 ballots, right? So you keep the number of ballots. You can't have more than the number that was put out, because you know it's 1 to 1,000. So you can't have ballot number 2,400, because it doesn't exist. And you can't have more than number 400 ballot, right? So you know you have 1,000 ballots went out, 1,000 ballots came back, and only 1,000 ballots came back. That's why. Because what happened in Pennsylvania, and I know because I went up there during the protest, there were 189,000 ballots that came in at midnight. Mail-in ballots. All of them voted for Biden. No down ballot races were checked, and they counted them. That 189,000, were those real voters or not, we don't know, because there's not a consecutive trail of numbers of the ballots. There were 189,000 ballots that came in at midnight that only had his vote on it. So that prevents that, because we know we only have 1,000 ballots that are out, and you can't have 3,000 in the audit. That's the point. And the way you keep people from knowing who you voted for is when you go in to vote, They turn all these numbered ballots upside down, numbers down, you can't see them, on the table in front of you, and you just pull one out, and that's your ballot. And say, none of you are.
So the numbers are already pre-printed on the ballot?
Correct. Yes, that's right. Correct.
State
So
legislature
therefore,
didn't
the
address
election
this.
agency, they send out 100,000 ballots, or they have
Because there was a
100,000
special
ballots out,
session.
some are
No, they.
That's because it's white supremacy.
sent out mail ballots, some are done
It's
the
already
election day,
in the
some
law.
are
It's
pre-election.
supposed to be done.
When they get back, they
They're waiving
still
the
have that
law.
same exact number of ballots maximum.
Correct.
Really?
They can have less. but
So does this
they
reference
have
what
less.
that
They
law
didn't waive
is?
this one. They
All those that
Should
be
this
polls and everything else
resolution-
should all be accounted for, whether they were spoiled ballots,
Correct.
provisional ballot, whatever the case.
And we can do it by number. By ballot number.
By the ballots.
Right, right, that's the point. By the way, that's how we used to vote in the sixties, just saying, they were all, you know.
I would do the ballot that plus the computer on the election itself, that way. They can't slip
Well,
somebody.
that's even better.
And the location.
They put our election in there.
That's a good idea.
I know in Carroll County, since we've gone to the voting center, you have this big stack of blank paper basically, and then it gets printed out. But what you're saying is that blank paper should be consecutive numbered.
Correct.
So that when they run it through there, it's not a printer or anything else generating it. It's already pre-printed.
The other way people talk about doing is watermarking the ballots, but that's really expensive to do that. And it's not as secure as consecutive numbers.
So my understanding, Dallas County did not number their ballots. I know where our county did it.
Since we go to the election center, they're not that way.
I think Dallas did number it last time.
So this resolution seems more specific to me, it's all it is Dallas County.
This resolution is from the Dallas County resolution, it's a copy, basically.
I'm trying to understand.
Okay.
And here's the system we didn't have paper at all on in-person voting in Harris County until November when we
Okay.
used the machines. And I'm trying to figure out how this works with that. And I really can't, and I'm talking to someone else, I really can't understand how this would work on the system we use.
What system do you use? When you walk into the polling place, walk us through it.
Okay.
Verity, what is it called? Verity,
The heart variable?
Heart Verity?
Yeah. In other words, someone walks in
Mhm.
and you qualify them and you give them a piece of paper.
Okay?
They go to a tablet.
And it's thermal paper.
It's thermal paper. They go to a tablet, they insert the paper, and they make their selections on a screen. After they confirm their selections, they print, it's printed on the thermal paper.
Right.
So then they take the thermal paper to a scanner and they deposit it in the scanner.
That's right.
So I'm trying to figure out, so the thermal paper would be numbered.
Correct.
But so when each person comes up, you would have to give them, how would that work?
Well, there's 10 pieces of paper on the table, and they have numbers 1 through 10, and you shuffle them, and you turn the numbers down, so he doesn't even know what number he's gonna pick, and nobody else knows what number he picks out of that group. You pull your piece of paper out, you take it to the machine, you put it in, you've got number 7. Number 7 gets printed, number 7 gets taken out, number 7 gets taken to the scanner and thrown in. Then we go back to audit, there's only one number 7. Okay, so that's how that works, is each paper ballot has a number on, it, unique number on it.
And what happens to all the unused paper sheets?
Jerry,
You'd still account for them.
Jerry, I think
You
I
have
can
to
speak
do all
to
the
that.
ballots.
Well, you'd have them in the audit, you'd have them in the total of ballots for that election.
It works like a
Unused
checkbook.
ballots, yeah, and spoiled ones too, if you go, oh, I messed up, dang it, that would choose, number 7 would still show, you'd go pull another one, you get number 8, or
All right.
10, yeah. Yeah.
He's an election judge.
Stand
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Rolando, I've been an election judge for 25 years, and I've seen the whole issues. Jim is correct on how this works, is the blank ballots, if you use the thermal paper, they're blank. If you use pre-printed ballots, either way, you pre-number the ballots. Every county knows exactly which polling location, whether it's a precinct or a countywide polling sites, which ballot numbers they get. So for instance, if I'm polling site number 32 in Bell County is gonna give me ballots 2001 through 5,000, let's say. So they gave me 3,000 ballots. When I get those, there is a ballot certificate that day that I fill out. I got 2001 to 5,000 serial number. Then we take those out, and of course the judge has to sign the back of them and those kind of things. And then, as Jim said, they're laid on the table. When the voter comes in, you come in to vote. You pick up your ballot, you say, okay, I'm gonna choose this one of those 5 or 10 or whatever. You go vote it, it gets voted. At the end of the night, we take all of those ballots that are left over and we say, okay, what do we have left over? Well, I started with 2001 and I know I didn't open up stacks 3,000 through 5,000, so those are still there. So I record that. And then I also record that of the ones that I had left open, I'm able to go through and pull those numbers and I know which ones are left. And that gets recorded. And then when the election is done, if there's ever a contest, like Jim said, you're able to pull all those ballots. You know exactly which ballots got voted, but you have no idea who voted that particular ballot. And if there's any duplicate serial numbers or missing serial numbers, then you know something has happened with the ballot. That's basically how the system works.
Now, it's a pain for the election judge.
Yes, it is very much a pain.
I can guess, he's gotta identify at the end of every night which ones weren't voted.
Do you guys want to change Dallas County and just make this universal?
Well, that was my question, was this
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of counties that are doing, I'll just speak, there's a lot of counties that are not numbering the ballots, pre-numbering the ballots, like Bell County has gone, and I hate this, they've gone to the poll books, the electronic poll books will number the ballot.
Not consecutively.
And then they're not consecutive, it is a random number generator that generates it, and then when it marks off that that ballot got used.
This is a good idea right here.
So this is a really good resolution, because basically what's happened is there's an opinion at the Attorney General's office right now where they're asking for the Attorney General to rule on either pre-numbering or allowing the poll books to do it, and we need to be saying, no, you need to have every ballot pre-numbered with the serial number printed on that ballot.
So I'm all about, I think this is fantastic, but
Yeah.
we need to simplify this document to where.
Yes, it's very long.
And
Yeah.
so, do y'all want to work on that like tonight, maybe, or, this is gonna take us minutes. Y'all tell?
It's already in the election code that they're supposed to be numbering the ballots,
Yeah, that's
but they're not doing it.
Right, I love this. I'm just saying, we need to make this very simple.
How about result? We start following the law.
Exactly. I'm with you.
No, what we need to do is pass a law.
It's a law that says you have to pass a law. Follow the law.
Yeah, which is stupid, because the Secretary of State says, oh,
Okay,
you can do
okay.
it this way. So they're waiting.
What do you think? We'll just table this.
Because I took that ballot, I tried to make it for ballot, and it was just.
Jerry, I move to table this while it gets the language fixed in it.
Is that postpone it?
Yeah, table, yeah. Postpone. Postpone, okay.
I agree, because I knew it was going to.
All in favor of postponing it?
Till when? Otherwise, if you say indefinitely.
Well, they do, right here, so whereas 35 years ago.
Table is indefinite, postpone means.
See the second whereas? They
Oh,
actually
okay,
reference
all
the
right,
code.
yep.
It's there.
Yes. That should be all, isn't it?
And it also references the Constitution, because it's in the Constitution.
So it's postponed and it comes up at
Motion to postpone it.
Well, I
Postpone
just,
till, let's put the
Next meeting.
ordinance in.
Next meeting.
Next quarterly meeting.
and that's
Take
what
a
Bob
minute.
did a second. We need to pick for the fall for sure.
Gotta have a second.
Carol, second. All in favor?
All right.
I missed.
Okay, you sit down.
They were tabling the work up tonight.
Look, we're postponing it
Secretary of State is
until
way
the next
code to say.
meeting.
Supposed to take a
Unless someone wants to take up the project tonight, to rewrite this whole thing.
You don't have time to reconvene and get it to the floor.
But they can bring it up tomorrow.
Oh, and do the other,
Just the way.
big time, too much work. Let's be lazy.
Okay. Right, that one's done.
Attorney General's being lazy, let's be lazy.
If they're busy, we're not, right?
We pay him to be busy.
I mean, you don't have to have that job. You don't have to.
He's right, and quit playing.
Okay, the next one is about the, Board of Appeal, Criminal Appeals. Removing the authority, resolve, oh, wow.
Yep, I'll stay for this.
Is this which one?
Wait.
This is my county.
Is this the, oh, this is the opinion of the Court of Appeals.
I don't know how in the hell did they get here?
May I ask a question of a member? Jim, is this the proper way to cite with the date like this and then the opinion?
Well, if you want proper citation form, you have the name of the case first, and then you say comma, and then you have where it is cited, which court it's out of. in
So would you move this phrase in gray to the beginning of the whereas?
Yes, no, put it where, Court of Criminal Appeals, comma, in State versus Stevens, comma,
And
comma, and then you would have, it's only a memorandum, it's a slip sheet right now, it's not a published opinion yet. If it was a published opinion, you'd have like 465 Southwest 3rd, 491, parentheses, CCA, 2021, close by. That's how the proper citation was. This is about as good as you can do right now, unless you have the slip opinion number, which I don't have in hand.
So keep the abbreviated December 15, 2021, just like that?
Yeah, because that gives people enough knowledge, knowing the date of the opinion and the name of the opinion. There's probably not two of those on the same day, right? So,
Okay, if you're happy with that, I'm happy with that.
that's fine.
Am I allowed to speak?
If the chair
Just can't.
Who wants to speak?
It's
You wanna
an
speak?
arbitrary decision.
Yes, you may
We
speak.
need a motion to discuss first.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna explain it, because this is my former share. You're gonna love
Give
it.
me a title, somebody.
It's just.
You could just say just resolutions on election opinion.
Resolution without the.
Prosecution of election crime.
Systemic election corruption.
On the criminal court of appeals, stupid decision.
Yeah.
Early on election integrity, anyway, it went against our
Decision
election.
was about who can initiate.
How about resolution on the authority of the
Well, the DA.
Attorney General
It's the
to
indictment.
prosecute?
See, the attorney general can't do anything
Election
without.
crime.
Is that too long?
No.
No.
No, that's very much the point. That's what it all is.
But the
It's about his authority.
should be able to appeal. There's no.
Yes, get on the table.
That's
Get a
it.
motion,
The DA
get someone to move the
you
thing,
have
and
to
then we
civil
can start.
case. This is what
tearing it
Okay,
apart.
who wants to make a
That's
motion
why I went to
to
the criminal court. of
start
appeals.
working on it?
This is crime. It's a crime. So.
Anybody wanna make a motion?
He has no, you can't go to the page.
So that was to resolve.
Well, just to open debate, I think Jerry wants.
Well, she wants, to open- yeah, I'll speak to the resolution.
But it has to be moved
I
and
know,
second.
that's what I said.
Sierra, I think
Just dies
Dan
on
and,
the line, right?
Dan and Jim are moving.
No, I'm not moving to consider it. I will speak if it's moved to be considered.
Anybody else?
So moved. I'll make a motion.
Dan, second? Britton?
Sounds like.
Okay, up for discussion.
For our new county judge to.
Okay, so this is my just former home county, and this is the backstory. Zena Stevens, who is the sheriff currently in Jefferson County, was caught in a dragnet by the FBI who was investigating somebody else. They caught her on video and on audio recording, accepting $10,000 cash and receiving instructions on how to fake her donation affidavits that she submits as part of her campaign. Then they caught her depositing the money herself in her campaign bank account, and they have the documents that she fraudulently filled out herself on donors who don't even exist. FBI has all of this information. They submitted it to our county DA. He declined to prosecute because he's in bed with the same person that's being investigated by the FBI and their ancillary investigation called Zena Stevens. So the FBI brought it to a neighboring county that convened a grand jury and indicted her. The Court of Appeals vacated that indictment because they don't have jurisdiction in Jefferson County.
That would be correct.
Have you, there's some provisions in the government code also that allow for the removal of sheriffs and DAs and anybody else in a certain, I think it's section 87 of the government code.
Okay.
Just a thought that,
But where would that have to be initiated?
so it would have to be in the county. What you do is it's a civil lawsuit, it's removal proceedings. So you file a lawsuit, just a petition, any citizen within their 6 months can do it. Once that proceeding begins, a citation gets issued. And then ultimately, there's a very clear way to get a person, it's a jury trial. So the jury has to do it. Problem is, the county attorney is the one that has to be the one that brings that prosecution. So the county attorney won't do it, then you're kind of stuck there still, so.
So this is a big reason why I moved out of Jefferson County.
We all got similar counties.
I mean, most of y'all, I think I know, I used to sit on this board, and this is what drove me off the board. Because it's hard to be on the SREC and be a local Republican when there's that much corruption at the county level and nothing can be done.
We all understand, I promise you. We all understand.
Since the FBI had this information, why didn't they turn it over to the Texas Rangers for investigation and prosecution?
That's a good question.
The DA still has to prosecute, the Rangers are just the police force, they're not the prosecutor.
So therefore, we need legislation, and if it's brought that way, then it can come out of the Attorney General's office to avoid any local
That's correct.
involvement.
It's worse, we need to amend the Constitution.
Your jurisdiction for corruption needs to go higher than your county. So
I
used
didn't realize
to,
it.
there was another part of the story. Used to, corruption could be investigated here. Travis County held a near monopoly, and they went after Rick Perry.
Yeah.
And so the legislature stripped them of that power. Now it has to go to the county in which.
That
the
was like in
corruption-
2016 or so, wasn't it? That happened?
Pocket code.
Yes.
There was a lot of controversy about
Right.
that.
Okay, do we have any amendments to this?
Hold on.
Of course.
I want to
Jim.
tell some backstory as well, legal backstory, okay? We got the law like it's written, and then we got the law like it's practiced. And sometimes they actually are the same. In this case, the Texas Constitution gives prosecutorial authority of criminal matters to the county district attorneys. In fact, they're called criminal district attorneys in the Constitution. Now they did everything, they're just called district attorneys. It does not expressly give the Attorney General the authority to prosecute criminal acts. That's what the Constitution says. However, for the last 100 years, the Attorney General has prosecuted all kinds of crimes, okay? They just kind of did it, and nobody said anything about it. And so we got 100 years of practical experience with the Texas Attorney General prosecuting criminal offenses when he doesn't have constitutional authority to do it. The Court of Criminal Appeals got this case and they said, oh, sorry, I know you've been doing this for 100 years, but you can't do it anymore because you don't have constitutional authority. Only the criminal district attorneys have the authority under the Constitution to prosecute criminal offenses. That's why they dismissed it. He doesn't have jurisdiction to prosecute the claim. So what we need to do is we need to amend the Constitution to give the Attorney General the authority to do that. That's one way. The other way we can do it is we can actually do it through legislation, although I'm sure this will be challenged too, that if Travis County DA will not prosecute this, then you have to poll the surrounding county DAs to see if any of them want to do it. That can be done with legislation, but then again, now you run into the constitutional problem of, isn't it exclusively the district attorney in Travis that can do the Travis County prosecutions? And that was what they struck down in Rick Perry's thing, right? They said that all of them can do it. It has to be in the county where it happens. So, all of them can't do it anymore, it has to be in the county where it happens. So that's unintended consequence of the Rick Perry thing, is that now we have a situation where Dallas, Harris, Bear, El Paso, they're never gonna prosecute. Those DAs are never gonna prosecute election crimes, because they're basically in on it, right?
Right.
And now the Attorney General can't do it either, so who can do it? Nobody in Texas, basically, in those counties. So we need to change the Constitution.
That's right.
It's the only way to do it.
So is that something we should potentially add to this resolution as a resolve, a constitutional
Yeah,
amendment
that's-
to give the authority to the Attorney General to be the top prosecutor within the state to prosecute crimes?
Why not do both?
Right?
Why not allow the AG to pick which?
Okay, that's better.
Or pick which county he wants to go prosecute.
Yeah. Now you're gonna have unintended consequences there. The unintended consequences are, I'm a DA with a limited budget. The Attorney General over here has an unlimited budget. I'm just gonna let him prosecute all my crimes, because now he's got the authority to do it.
Well,
I
and
save
we're-
my
and
budget
we're-
for other things.
And we're assuming we're gonna have a Republican Attorney General.
That's the other thing, yeah.
We wanna be very careful not to forge a weapon that a Democrat could use against us.
Somehow you would want it to where if a DA elects not to, then the Attorney General has the option of potentially picking up that case to say it needs to be prosecuted. And either he does it or he assigns it along with the resources to some other county.
That's right.
Like that.
That's the
I
right.
think that would pass.
That's the
yeah.
right.
That would pass.
So you still get it done so that you're dealing with, no matter which side political aisle you're on, because it can flip. You still don't want to come back and hurt you, or you still want it to work no matter who's in charge over there.
Yeah, the problem is we got two Democrats, Democrat DA and Travis, Democrat Attorney General. Well, you're not gonna get prosecution.
It's not getting prosecuted. At that point, it's all over.
You run out of police officers at some point.
What's happening in Jefferson happens all over. I mean, I could give you 15 examples of that across Texas. I mean, where counties, they're so tightly knit. It's not just Republican, Democrats, they're just so tightly knit.
Yeah, no. That's the only way it's gonna be good.
Bill, you have something?
But this information was by the FBI.
Go ahead, Bill.
I have a problem, what we're saying is the Court of Appeals followed the Constitution. So that's not what we're accusing of legislating from the bench, of forcing someone to follow the Constitution. Some of this language just concerns me. We don't like it when liberal Democrat judges do things, but we're basically asking our Supreme Court or Court of Criminal Appeals to basically not follow the Constitution. So we could come up with a better language as, follow precedents or follow 100 years of precedents. That's more powerful. Kind of like in God We Trust, some of the cases, it's been there for 100 years, let's keep it, and would make me more comfortable supporting it.
Inertia is not the law of the land, though. The Constitution is the law of the land.
I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to accuse our Republicans of judicial activism when they're actually just saying, hey,
They did
you follow
exactly what the law
Constitution.
said. There is no law that supports the action that
That's right.
had been common law,
Yeah.
I'd say, for a while.
The
Well,
third
do we-
way.
Do we need to take this one here and just have it a simple resolve that it needs to be a constitutional question that needs to be, or an amendment that needs to be made to resolve it? Because the reason this all happened is because there was no constitutional authority for the action to be taken. The court was correct as far as following the absolute law. And we need to, say, hey, guys, thank you very much. You pointed out a real flaw within our system we got here.
Yeah.
And we now need to fix it with the state constitutional amendment that gets you to where, in some mechanism to do that.
Yeah.
Which will never happen, because we'll never have 100 seats.
So if you're gonna try to salvage this, you have to strike be it further resolved. Because they are not legislating from the bench. They are actually making a decision based on, you passed it up.
Which one?
The one that's got the highlighting in it. They're not
Wanna strike the
legislating
whole
from.
thing?
And I can't do it,
No, you can't.
Virgil, but what I'm saying is,
Jim,
if you're going to salvage this, that at least has to go, because they are not legislating from the bench. They are overturning precedent in favor of a constitutional rule, right?
they're returning, practice, not precedent. They've never ruled on this. The first time this has ever come up to the
Right,
criminal
right.
process. I think the resolution needs to be that we ask the legislature to propose a constitutional amendment to give the Attorney General the authority to prosecute election crimes. Like you said, they're not agreed anyway, because we're never gonna have 100 reps.
Basically, we almost need to rework this to where the resolve is initiating it to where at our state convention, and re-pick it back up as part of the platform, but also where it becomes a legislative priority to fix this, or legislation to submit it as a constitutional bill to fix it. I mean, that's the basic process of it.
How difficult would this be to get on the ballot?
Depends on how the state convention runs its legislative priorities meeting.
They can still add it, I thought it was last time, they can still add it.
But, I would, if that meeting was held the way, since I was one of the original people with it back in 2014 that created that legislative priority set, is that we should have our state legislatures in the same room with it so they can help us write the language it takes for them to be able to get across the line.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we just can't do it in a silo and throw it over the wall.
We have to go and advocate for it, yeah.
There has to be a consensus.
Okay, we can postpone this one too, and Roger's gonna explain to you about the resolution between now and state convention.
So, there's a mechanism here if there's some doubt in this committee that you can come up with a solution if you're crossways on the calling out the activism or lack thereof or constitutional precedent or whatever. But Jerry wanted me to point out to the committee that in our bylaws, a duty of this committee, and I've just put it on the screen for convenience here, that you all can make a recommendation to temporary platform and resolutions if you feel like this is something that should be embodied in the 2022 to 2024 platform. The committee can make a formal recommendation on that. And I believe that you would not need the SREC's, the precedent from 2 years ago is that the SREC did not have to ratify this committee's recommendations. So if you all met between this meeting and state convention electronically, you could still make a recommendation to that temporary resolutions and platform committee at state convention. So just an opportunity that if you want to avail yourself of it, it's certainly a way to deal with this. If you can't come to a consensus right now.
Another mechanism, we can write a resolution, send it through our SDs and move it up to the credit.
Well, you're gonna get one from Jefferson, that's for sure.
That's great. I just wrote it up myself to do within my own, because I think that's,
Yes, yeah.
it's a fix that needs to be done, so.
Yeah, this is important. You think tabling it for now and then doing the electronic meeting?
We can do it as an electronic meeting.
I mean, people will need to work on the
That
language
way
in the
we can do-
interim.
If we were a year ago, I would say we would do it through this
Yeah,
mechanism
right,
on the
yeah.
SREC and stuff, and then, but as close as we are to the convention and all that process, I think it'll have a lot more substance and feet to it, going through the SDs and into the states.
County conventions and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
You know, that, I think right now, time consideration for the street noise.
Now, we're not gonna get it done today.
To hash this one out and put it to an acceptable form.
But we need to get it back to all the SDs, I guess all the SRECs, we can do it tomorrow, because we're in it. But tell them to make sure that it gets put in their Senate conventions.
Yeah, we could come up with some potentially, later on, why couldn't we come up with, through you, just some kind of standard language? You could blast it out to all the SREC members.
That's it.
If you can, put this into your Senate District Convention as a resolution, so we can go forward. That would, I would think that would have a little more standing, a little more gravitas than anything else.
We need to vote on it.
Well, you got a motion on the floor, so you have to dispose of the motion. Or someone can make a,
Can someone withdraw their motion?
What's the motion on the floor to
To accept the
So we
resolution,
could talk about it.
to open it up for debate.
Yeah.
They
So you need
We gotta
either a
close
motion
it
to
up.
make a
postpone
motion
it
to
or.
postpone it indefinitely.
Okay. And then in the meantime, I'll get something
We can-
together, we'll
we
get
can
it
do
set
that,
up.
yeah. But I think the mechanism is to request a amendment to the Constitution, giving the authority directly to the, be able to do some stuff like that in the legislature. There has to be legislation behind it, constitutional amendment to make it all happen.
So Jerry, we will be getting something on this?
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
You could also create a work group.
Or you can call it.
No, whatever, there's a lot, I'll be quiet.
She doesn't like those.
No.
Jerry, you have to vote on this.
Just you can vote on the, get a vote on the.
Vote to postpone indefinitely.
Get a vote on the postponement.
Okay, everyone wants to postpone, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. No? Okay, hey, committee, if y'all don't mind, I will call it Zoom meeting. We are going to come up with this, okay? Get ready. Yeah, I got it. Okay, so you did? So then I'll make it happen.
Can you send some thought information to her about?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll talk on the way back.
We'll talk, we'll dive in.
I thought I was a
Okay,
bad.
Figure it all out, I go back to Dallas.
Move it to Gene Pack.
We're gonna go ahead and do the memorial resolution honoring Eugene Pack. This was brought, sent in by, you wanna talk about it?
Yeah, Gene Pack is, a longtime activist in Harris County. And he passed away from COVID at the end of January. And we simply wanted to, thank him and, for all of his years of service and, make sure that we do a nice memorial resolution on his behalf. He's been active both in the party for decades as well as active in the community. So this is a great loss for Harris County.
I want to echo what Don just said. Even before I was a precinct chair, I've been a precinct chair almost my entire adult life. Before I became a precinct chair, Gene Pack was one of the first people in Harris County that I ran into in the political world. And he, invited me to events and helped form me and did he did that to so many people. And I want to just stress that this is not a man who just had an impact in Harris County, but across the state. He was heavily involved in promoting Black Republicans and just a fine gentleman. He did serve on this body, on the SREC, and I think that makes it relevant, the fact that he had statewide reach and that he represented this body, his district in this body. So, Don, thank you for writing this. It's a real sad event that he passed away. He was fairly young, and just a gentleman and someone who built the party and brought people together. And I would ask that you support this.
Can we read it? Because we haven't seen it.
And yeah,
We
we'll
need to
put
make
it
a
clean
motion
up, but
to discuss it, sorry guys.
So moved.
Okay, Greg said we're discussing, who's second? Carol?
we'll do a little wordsmithing here too.
Yeah, we're gonna rewrite this, and then if we have, we're gonna pass it, then we will put it on special paper and frame it and give it to his wife.
serve.
Oh, thank you, Carol. Yeah, help me out here.
First line, whole thing, instead of have lost, just lost.
I'm gonna put a colon here. I'll just make a whole bunch of.
Whereas you had, was it passionate community activist?
Anything else in that, this second whereas?
Was loved and respected.
After the word learn in the comment, it should be an as a.
Where were you?
Right there.
As?
This would be an as a nonprofit.
I think just a nonprofit.
Yeah, because it's in a positive to the previous.
GPAC was much loved, just was loved and respected.
I'm gonna put his there. I don't like the 1 and 2 either. I'm gonna.
Let's take that out.
Take out the semicolon.
And we'll take out this. So,
Republican Party, it's ours,
and I'm gonna change, sometimes we flip between SREC and Republican Party of Texas. I think here appropriately, we should say Republican Party of Texas.
Gratefully acknowledges, because we're singular.
Its sincerest condolences are our sincerest.
I like our, it's more personal.
I'm gonna, so recognize the remarkable achievements, gratefully acknowledges his many contributions to the Republican Party, and what was the thing we were?
And extends its or ours.
Because it's not a person, it's an organization, so it's gotta be its. You could say the members of the Republican Party would be ours, but the Republican Party would be its, yeah. Yeah, that's really nice.
We'll give it a second look, but I think we caught everything. Dawn, anything?
Hey, let me take real quick break. No, hurry up. She's got to go make an announcement. Sorry.
Some of you've heard this, so sorry, because I know we're in lots of different committees here, but we've got a new standalone group. It's called VEP. It's the Voter Engagement PAC. We're using it like we did 2 years ago. We've got all these volunteers make phone calls to register people to vote, and our group actually registered 213,000 new Republicans. We need to do the same thing again. So you'll be hearing more about this after the election, on March 1st. You'll be getting some information from me. And then, we want to do that same thing again, they have those volunteers, we'll have them on board and help with our candidates, and then we'll put strike force teams together in the fall. So we've got regional directors, which you're gonna be able to point people to help get these people, calling for us. And right now, we've already sent out, over 500,000 texts, and we're getting great response from people who want to register from the new members list and the intra-state members list. So, I'll let you get back to this thing. Thanks for what y'all are doing there.
You done?
I've got to go make another
Yes, sir. Can I get a unanimous vote to accept this resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, we're gonna go back real quick to this one about the early voting result tapes. Again, this is Dallas County.
It's the model. It's the model.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we don't have it put up there. They put it in. Okay. We're gonna have to do that. I wonder if we should just wait.
It's another one of those.
It's another one of those.
Yeah.
Set up the other one.
Early voting result page. Download it and format it in. Maybe at 666 kilobytes.
Okay, committee, on this, one about the early voting tapes, we're gonna put this on our Zoom, meeting. If you got, rewrite this, because it's not ready. That's it. So all in favor of postponing this one?
Aye.
All right, unanimous.
Move to adjourn.
All right.
Wow, that was quick.
1:30. I just wait for about a 10-hour Zoom meeting.
Can't wait. 10-hour Zoom meeting. We've been waiting for one of those for 2 years.
For wordsmithing all those?
Oh. I think I'll just rewrite it, so it'll be a 5-minute Zoom meeting. I think so. It's not
Stuff to be able to pay bills.
back till 2.
So I'll get an official copy to everybody.
Even if she said, we can tell you we're going.
Yeah.
We're not in I have a real fun time irritating all.
Hey, just text me.
We deserve it.
Text me tonight.
It's easy target too.
It's a fun time. To me, it's entertaining. With their own words and stuff. Because it's just a real frustrating.
Got a scanner available and stuff?
They get,
I'm sorry.
judges get mad at you.
You watch how we actually trim the fat, right? So just trim the fat real big time. It's okay to take that whole rat, take out. You want it to be wow. Hey, not everyone is lost in the so.
Because
I get it. I get it. Well, I get it. Now,
because if they
I
walk in,
understand.
they
I'll be
sit
around.
there,
Just text me.
and they have 2 or 3 pages of diatribe that goes through.
Glad you're on the right track.
And all you need to know is what was the alcohol content. Did they hurt anybody or anything like that? 50 words or less,
Same thing.
get on down the road. This one lady, she came in, she got all this stack of paper and stuff. I said, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you plan on raising it, you're gonna have to be very sore hands. You get past 50 words, I'm gonna pick this gavel, smacking your hands to the stock.
Well, if you put all that hardware in, you definitely had a plan.
I had enough trouble getting my jury members to realize this is not CSI.
Right. It's not TV.
Yeah, and you can have these instances on DNA and all that.
Hey, see you.
So, I said, what was the alcohol content? I started just asking for what's the alcohol.
That resolution.
Well, do you need any more information on that? I said, the requirement for us is not that hard. We don't have to go prove it. That's your job.
And I'll send you the.
The only thing we got into is asking whether the stock was really good or not. If they did,
And even that's a motion to suppress, that's really for the trial judge, not you.
Yeah, but I mean, it's sitting in a room, it's that part of it. I mean, you know, but that was there, I think, the most fascinating experience. We went through 1,900 some odd cases.
Oh, yeah, because they go fast.
And we did 3 bills.
Do you want me to, for proxies, do you want me to, copy anyone?
No, that's all right.
The whole game. We just called a couple
Right, I mean, they just kind of threw it at us and like.
Well, that's what happened. We have one lady, her and her friends just having one CPC on it.
I'm not bringing it up.
All right. Deleted the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like.
Thanks.
Thank you.
She went through a red light. In front of 2 football
Oh.
They take off, and then she tried to. Then she got out and tried to hit one of the cops.
No one ever told me stuff because I don't get a vote, so nobody cares about me.
So if somebody nominates me, I'll say,
Well, I'll take endorsements from anybody.
That's what, I mean, that's what. I could email you. But
The minute someone gets elected, Jerry's gonna campaign for me.
really hurt somebody.
no, but I can do that. Because I'm a member of this. Because I'm
That's the.
And it's gonna take hours. Yeah.
Ministeri, our drive ramp. Oh. Yeah, Rhonda said, invited me to dinner. But I might bail. How much are the tickets? Ready for the how much are the tickets? Gosh, this is a tough one. If it weren't an hour away.
I'm going like this, I don't care.
I'll put on a jacket. Well, it's a rural county. I don't look overdressed.
I've gone there wearing a cocktail dress.
Yeah, but I will
You have to like, Texas, you have to know where you're going. Gotta know when to hold them.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, it's
Robert for stepping down, but you have to call. Oh, no, I was in it.
They don't have to. They don't have to trust
I was in
anybody.
the main
They know who they are.
I'm shrieking down.
Who's the billionaire?
Oh, McLean. Uncle.
Uncle.
Drayton McLean.
Great, that's it.
I know, he lives down the street from me.
Oh, really? You're from Long County?
No. Yeah.
Oh, really?
In fact,
Well,
a
you
good
going
friend
to
of mine,
the
a good friend of
party
mine. No, I'm a good friend of mine working on it, so.
Okay, small world.
Yeah, in fact, I used to do a Bible study in his office. He doesn't know anything about improv. Doesn't matter.
Well, sometimes these billionaires have gifts of like remembering people.
Yeah. I just remember when he owned the Astros.
Oh, that's where it was, yeah.
My friend,
He has the McLean Stadium.
my friend was driving him, because he was basically his go-to guy for everything, so he,
driving around, so he's at work. And he said he was hearing all
He
kinds
already-
of phone calls about trades.
Well, he already knows money.
And
Because
he put a pick in the draft, and he just, my friend was like, I just had to keep my mouth shut, because I said, you can't say anything.
Yeah, you probably have to sign a.
Yeah.
An NDA.
Yeah, he says, I couldn't say anything, but it's like, oh, good, you know, he knew what was going on. He would later go, yeah, I knew that was gonna happen.
Where'd you get your money?
Yeah.
All right, I've got them all, both in the same doc now, whenever you're ready.
Here, there.
I'm
Got
here.
it, more finalization.
We go party.
Whenever,
Finalization.
whenever we can pull you away from Doug.
That won't be hard.
But take a minute, sorry, I didn't mean to.
I'm done. He's done. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
All right, we're ready to wordsmith and clean up. Why is she missing tomorrow?
She got COVID and she's.
So she's not contagious.
Oh, yeah, you might be right. Okay, cool.
Did you go to the Houston meeting last August? 2 August ago. When I was post-COVID, I was like, I was a month into
2
it.
days ago, so really.
She got COVID
Good
a
job.
few weeks, she got COVID.
And where's,
That was worse.
He's rocking terrible that day. And then I started feeling better, but then days later, I lost my taste. Before I stopped.
Did you think you were gonna do a second round of,
I kinda did, yeah, I thought it was almost.
how long did you lose? The pace?
I lost my taste for about 4 days.
That was about, it stressed me out too. I mean, like, when you can't smell or taste anything, it like, it's constantly on your mind. Yeah, I think I was actually depressed. Were you looking up olfactory training? I was ready to order the olfactory training kit. Well, and if the damage is deep, then it has to rewire.
Yeah, exactly. So they're like, well, most people get theirs back within a week. So then it was a week later, I'm still freaking out.
I'm gonna be I'll never be able to eat anything.
I would make such a drama queen. I'm seriously asked my mom. She was like,
Oh, I would have been really dramatic about it, but like, I gave it to my parents, so like,
I was
yeah.
at my parents' house and I was sick, and I was like, get away from me, just in case COVID. That was where I lost my taste. So I'm like, get away from me. Then I went to the secret. And I did have at one point
Did you
a 1
give
or
it to
2.
them?
No, they never got it.
Yeah, I was with my mom, so, yeah. I would have felt guilty. I mean, let's just be honest, right? I had it, she got it, she was in, you know,
My parents didn't get it at all. My dad has like some really,
health issues.
yeah, he has some pretty strong health issues where I feel like the definitely has an issue.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the restroom.
He has breathing difficulties, as he had to have.
Okay, go and come back.
He had to have like nasal breathing. Yeah, well, so he had like cancer and they did radiation.
Oh, wow.
They had to reconstruct his jaw. They had to reattach his braces.
Can he speak okay?
Did he speak okay? He just can't speak very well.
Yeah, maybe get someone away.
Yes.
Can you sign this?
I got Matt Rinaldi to sign. Yeah, so here's who I have. Tanya, Sean, Rhonda, Rose, Dave, Tony, Nogus, Glover, re-election. Thomas, Standard. Standard had conditions, I'm like.
Conditions.
I'm like. Yeah, that's what she told me too. She always dogs me about that. I'm like, you get them when you get them. You know, I got every Medicaid from executive session. Not like 40. Maybe I'll just- We're on the executive session minutes. This next to the month. Stick to the quarter. Yeah, this guy was a cool guy. And I say young, but like, he was like 60. I should change age to
And so,
less than 10. Okay, so I'm changing title. That. Okay. Oh, I've been doing a search in the minutes for Kirby quotes to make sure all my quotes were Kirby quotes as opposed to straight quotes. I figure I actually prefer the straight ones, but the default in Word is Kirby. Remember. Real Russian. Yeah. We could say as Texas Governor Grimm, as when that's fine to say it that way. I was going to say as one of his. I don't want to share. Right here, and was the founder of, was, yeah, they did like, precious pregnancy sort of stuff too. And whereas Gene Campbell's nothing was recognized as family, recognizes Martin Choose and King Pat gratefully acknowledges his many contributions to the World Party and so the 6 years influences we good. Okay, 2 spaces. Old black, whereas. Yeah, you are again. It like.
I gotta like awkwardly do the computer this time, the mouse.
Oh, I didn't think about that. States plank. States in plank. We quote that. Oh, that's not the whole thing, so including the title, that's the plan. I hope the party paid for Brandon's representation.
They got thrown out super fast because it's the wrong person.
That's so sweet. Let's talk quietly. They just heard all that.
Yep.
Is that parties?
I don't know. I don't know how to stop it either.
Just point at the wall.
Mm.